In this episode, you'll discover how to make swapping between sweep and sculling easier and drills for common issues.
Feel the grip of the oar handle, smooth yet firm in your hands. Taste the salt of your own sweat and the occasional splash of water. It's all part of the journey. Welcome to another episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Each week, our host, Masters rowing coach Rebecca Caro, dives deep into the world of Masters rowing. Whether you're on the water or in the gym, join us to become a faster master. Let's go rowing.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be back with you again. And today we're taking on a really good challenge: how to easily swap between sweep rowing and sculling. Now, not everybody does both. I totally get that. But if you're in a master's club, frequently, you will be asked to be in the other sort of boat. And I generally find that the first couple of practices, I am clumsy. I don't find it particularly natural to do the other thing. And I've lost my fine motor skills. Now, these differences are fundamentally about how we handle the oars and the movement up and down the boat and around the riggers. In sweep, the list of main differences are your handle grip on the recovery, how you feather, what happens on the recovery when you move away from the finish to the hands away position, your body rotation towards the rigger from half side to the catch on the recovery, and of course on the power phase as well. Your hand height at the catch, that's one hand relative to the other, and your elbow position at the finish. In sculling, the main differences are your grip, particularly on the recovery, and what you do with your thumbs, your left hand leading, how you nest your hands as they go through the crossover position, both on the power phase and on the recovery phase. Your left hand being higher than your right hand throughout, but particularly noticeable at the catch, and your elbow positions at the finish. So having done that long list of things, what are the visible signs of what goes wrong? If you can get videoed, or if you've got someone who's sitting behind you who can take a look at you, or if it's something that's you can see from your position as the athlete in the boat, here are some things that you can look out for. In sweep, firstly, feathering with both hands. Secondly, holding on too tightly with your inside hand. So that's always trying to control the oar handle, particularly when you push it down to take the oar out of the water and when you lift it up to put it into the water. On the recovery, having both arms fully straight with the elbows locked out. Leaning away from your rigger, particularly at the finish, but it can happen throughout the power phase and the recovery phase. Your outside elbow, so the arm that's holding onto the end of the oar handle, flares out sideways over the side of the boat, and your inside shoulder being higher than your outside shoulder. What are the causes of this? The feathering with both hands is simply about separating what each hand does. In general, your outside hand is in charge of the oar handle height. That means pushing down and lifting up. And your inside hand is in charge of feathering and squaring. If you hold on too tight with your inside hand, your outside hand can't do its job and is very passive. It also means that because of the pivot point being out at your pin, your inside hand, because it's not at the end of the lever, it has less control over the subtleties of how high you lift the handle or push the handle down. Having both arms straight on the recovery is a sign that you're likely going to travel straight up and down the boat. And this is also one of the reasons why your inside shoulder can be higher than your outside. So if I'm rowing on stroke side, if I've got both my arms straight, as I come round the arc, my inside shoulder will tend to rise up in order to manage the fact that my hands are trying to go around an arc where the inside hand has a shorter circumference than the outside hand to travel around. And so if your shoulder is pushed up like that, it's probably because this arm is straight. If you soften the elbow a little bit, it allows you to lower that shoulder. And then leaning away from your rigger is also often consequential on that. You think you can't get the finish out, you're going to get caught, you're going to catch a crab. And so you lean the opposite way in order to accommodate that. Moving to sculling, the visible signs of what goes wrong are your hands hit each other because, of course, you've got a crossover both in the power phase and the recovery phase to manage. Your thumbs need to be on the end of the handles, and smashing them together is very painful. Crossing over with the wrong hand in front. Convention for most countries nowadays is that your left hand leads. So your left hand is above and in front of your right hand, and they're nested like this, so that my knuckles here are touching the fleshy part of my palm here. They're not stacked one on top of the other. So you want your left hand above and in front. Also, you may have an air gap between your handles, in order to avoid hitting them. People put in a margin for error, and that's not going to help you because the riggers and the oarlocks are set at a particular height to make the boat level when your hands are brushing over each other at the crossover. If you've got air between your hands, you're going to use your oars. You're actually going to be pushing the boat off balance to one side or the other. And the last thing is your elbows. If you have your elbows tucked close to your body, that's usually a sign that you're a sweep rower, because in sweep, in general, our outside elbow points to the person behind and the inside elbow flares out a little bit so that your handle is roughly at 90 degrees to the elbow. In sculling, both elbows flare out so that the handles are at 90 degrees to your forearm at the finish position. So what can we do to help you sort out these differences? And these are things that you can build as your warm-ups. When you first switch into the boat, you can focus in on what you need to be doing a little bit differently. In sweep, a really good drill is to do wide grip or inside hand down the loom. What that does is it takes your inside hand and puts it off the handle and onto the fat bit of the shaft of the blade, and it isolates that hand because it moves it closer to the pivot point, makes it even harder for it to control height. And you can then row just normal rowing, feathered and squared. Similarly, though, if you then take off your inside hand and row square blades with your outside hand only holding the handle, take your inside hand and put it behind your back so that your fingers touch the top of your seat. A lot of people coach that you just put your hand by your side or in your lap or behind your back. If it's actually touching the top of your seat, what happens is you can feel when the seat moves and when it changes direction. And that helps you to train your outside hand to lift up so that the oar is under the water at the point that the seat changes direction. This then also helps you to train your outside hand to push down and to lift up, because you've got no inside hand holding the handle. It can't. So that's a really good way to isolate it. And then when you bring your inside hand back, what you might want to do is just rest it on top of the oar handle. Don't put your thumb underneath, don't grip it. Keep rowing with that outside hand doing the vertical movement. Then go to a grip and see if you can still allow your outside hand to be the one that's in control. A good one for getting your rotation around the rigger is to row square blades outside hand only and take your inside hand and hold your backstay. Now, your backstay anchors on the side of the boat and at the top of the pin. You want to hold about halfway down. What that means is that as you come up the slide, you get to half slide and you can pretty much feel like you're parallel with the sides of the boat. Your shoulders are parallel. But as you move from half slide to the catch, you need your shoulders to rotate so that they're roughly parallel with your handle. Having your inside hand on the backstay helps you to make that rotation so that your shoulders will naturally come around in the correct pattern at the correct angle. The other thing that can also help you with the rotation is just to take your head and look out towards your side of the boat so that your eyes follow your handle. So you'll find you're looking over the shoulder of the person in front, not looking at the back of their head. And human beings, where our eyes go, our bodies usually follow. You can test this. Try walking down a busy pavement sidewalk and look out to one side. You'll find you'll tend to walk in that direction. And obviously what tends to happen is then you don't cut an easy path between the people walking towards you. Now, drills for sculling to help you switch. The first one is the left hand lead exercise. That allows you to hold back your right hand, push your left hand forward on the recovery so that your arm gets fully straight. Then your right hand comes fully straight to join it. Check that you get into that correct nested position with the left hand above and in front of the right, and then roll up, do your recovery, take your stroke, pause at the finish, left first, then right. And then what you can do is you can gradually reduce the amount of exaggeration so that it shortens down to being a normal stroke where your left hand then naturally leads out ahead of your right. You can also pause at hands away. Pausing at hands away helps you visually look down and check your handle position, check you've got your thumbs on the end, check you haven't got any air between your handles and that you're correctly nested. To get your elbows doing the right thing, a useful thing is to pause at the finish with your blades feathered and sitting on the surface of the water. When you do that, the boat should be perfectly level because the blades are on the surface, and that allows for that rig height difference I mentioned earlier. And here you can look down, look at your right elbow, look at your left elbow, and check that the positions are correct. Your elbows are gently flared. You can also use this to check where the root of your thumb is brushing on your shirt. You should have your left hand slightly higher than your right hand. So you should actually be touching your body at that pause point so that you can tell whether you're getting to the right position, because the height of your handles at the end of the drive phase when the oars are under the water is exactly the same as the height of the handles when you pause with your blades flat on the water. And the other thing you can do to manage the fact that your left handle is always higher than your right is to do some slap catches where you roll up to the catch, leave the blades feathered and slap them onto the surface of the water. And at that point, your left hand should be higher than the right. If they're not, you won't hear a simultaneous slap. You'll hear a 1, 2. So I hope that gives you some clues as to some fun things to try when you switch between sweep and sculling. Let me know how you get on. Until next time.
We are part of the RowingChat podcast network. Please tell your fellow rowers about the show. If you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.